G'day, friends, fans, air conditioners, and other cool units. Welcome to another Writing Corner. This is episode 15, Emotions in Writing. If you like what I have to say, please give me a thumbs up, share, and of course, subscribe. Now, if you're, of course, on YouTube, don't forget, without the notification bell, you will miss out on notifications for live streams and video postings. Please consider supporting the channel. I have my book links in the link tree. I have PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, and other Ko-Fi and other links, and of course my social media. Now, of course, before I get to on the show, I have a locals and now with locals, just show you briefly what's going on with locals. Share screen. Coming up now, my locals community. View as a member. Come on. Here you go. Got a brief introduction to my first 3 books. And video on detailing world building. I'll be posting a video there every month on world building, and of course some writing memes to keep you entertained. Of course, membership is not free, but I continue value your support. Now, also got some new artwork commissioned. Artwork will be available soon. This is artwork that eventually will be building up to a artwork book, but you can be able to view artwork as a paid member of my locals, Patreon, and soon other areas. Now, just show you the artwork. This is, here she is, the Red Giant. She and other artworks will be available for viewing. That will be locals. And depending, there's already artwork on Patreon. Some will be available later. About 1 to a month. About 1 a month at the moment on average. A little bit ahead. Don't have much going on at the moment, but do what I can. Do what I can. I have finished a new chapter that is available on my Patreon. Let's see, just show you that briefly. Sometimes it's a bit slow. Bear with me as I share screen. Yeah, this is Patreon, David T. Applegate. We'll see links in the description below, often on Twitter. Now, basic for $2 a month, you get access to the artwork. $3 a month gives you artwork and advanced readership to chapters Current book is The Erratic Tales from the Empire. And I have now in the future, I think I'll be adding extra to my $5 promotions and stuff like that. So looking at what I can add to my Patreon to make it more enticing, to give you value for money. Although some people are getting more than me, some people are getting less than me. So I don't know if I'm charging too much or too little. I think it's the economy. Stupid, of course. But yeah, if you'd like to be an advanced reader, David, that Patreon, of course, I got my RPG stuff where I'll do my world building and stuff. But on my DT Applegate Patreon, I will have videos and that added to my $5 Patreon soon. Yes, I will be putting that up soon as well there. Don't know if Locals is exclusive content. I have to check that. Fortunately, yeah, I think it is actually. So I may not be able to do that, but if it isn't, I will definitely be putting that up on. I'll see where else I could put it. Some people don't like. Now, of course, Rumble. Hey, Rumble says. Something's wrong with Rumble. Where's the no? Oh, hi, friends and fans. Of course, hate to beat this, but I made a mistake with the hashtags last week on what is it, Rumble? Hopefully this time. But it says there's 2 watching. So hey, hi Rumble. Hey YouTube. Says one of you says somebody's watching. Don't forget to give a thumbs up. So yep, probably just listening. A lot of people do that these days. All right. Now, emotions in writing. When writing a novel, whether you intend or don't intend, you will generate, pretty much elicit an emotional response. Now, hopefully you intend and control the emotions. Give the reader emotions that match the scene. Don't always fall for this. Now, I know lately they call it the MCU formula, but quipping has been used as tension. Humor to break tension is an old trope, very old trope. But when it comes to writing, you'll often focus on the plot, character development, the setting, world building, etc. But the emotional landscape of your story, this is where you'll be tested, where I'm tested, we're all tested. Particularly in romance, you really want, if you're writing romance or a romantic scene, you really want to control the emotions and make the reader feel what the characters feel. Now, I'm trying to improve my writing here, and I'm just imparting what I'm learning as so you can learn with me, and we learn together along the way. Now, we are creators. We want to identify which characters have what emotions at what time as you develop your plot. However, there are three types of emotions that you elicit. One is your emotions, what the reader is under, what emotions you are conveying to the reader. You'll be describing the emotions experienced by the character, and the reader will have emotional responses as well. So your emotional responses will form like how attached you are to a character will come through because you tend to focus more on that character. Even if it's not your main character, you'll pick a favorite amongst you. Well, depending, antagonist, etc. You'll have protagonists, the allies, friends, etc. The various participants. Now, you want to feel as satisfied as you can with your writing and try to balance your emotions and try not to let it bleed through into the story so that the emotions experienced by the character matches the tone to the scene. Now, the emotional response from the reader will be based on the overall plot, right, for that particular scene. Because not everybody's going to be happy, sad, angry, etc. And really, you got to consider your emotions and how you're going to portray them on the page. If you're using emotions too much, now you bore the reader with lots of banter. You asked, what do you want to yourself? You're asking yourself each scene, what do you want the reader to experience? Do you want the reader to figure out the emotions, or do you want to be explicit with the emotions? So you're going to decide what the reader is going to experience, and your key goal is always to get the reader to identify with what's going on, to believe that this is how that character will act in that situation at that time, which means consistency in your character and your character development. If your character, nine times out of 10, your character is going to act as is acted previously, unless there's duress or a overriding goal. Simple fantasy trope: kill the dragon, get the treasure. Kill the dragon, get the treasure. But what if you're in higher fantasy and killing the dragon is a bad thing? So you really, unless there's a higher motivation, you're not going to kill the dragon. And it's the same with most fantasy. Kill the dragon is the most common thing. But what if there's a higher motivating goal? Particularly in fantasy, there's a trope where killing the dragons ends all magic. So you want to keep that last one alive and try to figure out whether or not you can bring back the entire race, because when it dies, magic goes with it. But of course, it's easier said than done, right? Isn't it always easier said than done? Now, if you have well-rounded, authentic characters, they're going to be contradictions. The characters are going to be hypocrites. They're going to be motivated by their goals, not their emotions, usually. How much sympathy, empathy, action you want to portray depends on you, your style. But you don't want to bog the reader down. Now, some tropes, some novels, you can get away with 10,000 word chapters. But these days, romance, some science fiction, if you want to be more action-packed, you're going to be limited to 3,500 words per chapter. You'll be limited to 28 to 30 chapters. You are going to be limited by your, and if you're published, you're going to have a print length that you have to keep to. Same with psychological theories. Especially thrillers. You have to do a lot of emotional work with thrillers, horrors, romance, and you have to do them quickly, efficient. So that means efficient, which means often either describing the character's actions to mix in various facial expressions, thoughts, in a dialogue. The word I'm looking for is body language. You are looking to convey emotion with body language, words, description, the tone of the message. Now, that's sometimes hard to do, but you're describing the voice, and there are roughly about 50 to 60 different words you could use just to describe a voice. And those are the ones people recognize. There's probably way more than that. Sometimes you could do it through imagery, flowery language, adding, which is basically another way of saying lots of poetic adjectives. Instead of saying she's flirtatious, she has a crooked smile. She brushes she runs her hand over his shoulder, pats him on the back. She twirls her hair. You don't have to say she's happy. You don't have to say she's flirtatious, do you? You recognize them. Now, there's plenty of emotional encyclopedias allegedly out there. Most of them will cost you money. That they will give you scene descriptions or words. They'll teach you how to convey emotions directly and indirectly. But you can observe life, your own experiences, describing the things that make you happy without saying they make you happy, describing the things that make you sad without saying they make you sad. And you can test these out on beta readers. That's part of the reason why you have beta readers and need beta readers. But one of the most common techniques, of course, is to use the body. Shrug shoulders, hunched over, rubbing the nose, scratching behind the ear, taking a breath before answering, letting out a sigh, wiping away a single tear. Of course, you can do all this directly too with the whole message. Like, you got, remember, a message is mixed between verbal and non-verbal. So try to use adverbs lightly, like he said loudly, he said softly, menacingly. Try to use more descriptions of the body language, but also the words. Look here. That's a great one. Look here. Right. straight away you know, or hey you, who do you think you are? Straight away, particularly, look here, and then add, as he said, look here, he steps forward, frowns, and leans forward. You know, that's, his fists are raised, and he stares you in the eye. You know, them. You don't have to say he's about to fight you, do you? Now, of course, the whole message has to be consistent. Now, there's plenty of body language books out there, and some of them are actually free. And hello, Eastland. How are you doing? Like feeding a baby, I say, yep. Definitely, when it comes to describing emotions, you are feeding the baby. You are saying to them, this is that emotion, because you're taking control over the reader at that point when you're conveying emotion. So this is why you try to make sure that at least half that paragraph is visual detail. Then you have the dialogue, then you have the little bit of emotion, and you have a little bit of the body language, so that it's not complete control. But yes, you dish out emotions like you're feeding a baby. You give them a spoonful every couple of paragraphs. But context matters. Presentation, personal grooming, the clothes they wear, how well dressed somebody is. These are all, believe it or not, emotional cues as to their psychological state. Agatha Christie described a person in such detail, in just a few lines even, that pretty much you suddenly realize at the end she was describing a corpse, but the whole time that's Hercule, I forget the name of the book too, Hercule Poirot, he's mumbling to himself as he's looking over the person, and he's describing them in detail with the pale skin, the pursed lips, the cold stare. And then he turns to, and then he's just, I think it's actually Origin Express, where he says, oh, yes, and definitely been dead for a few hours. He lifts the hands, drops it. Rigor mortis hasn't yet set in. One way to convey women gossiping is that they'll pick up their tea and lean over. And this is, even today, you'll see people, when they're going to gossip, they're going to lean over and try to harshly whisper. James Baldwin, one feels you know his character like your friend or family member and has spent years with him after a few sentences. There you go. Now, these are all techniques that are not singular techniques. They use emotional memory. They use idioms, imagery, facial expressions, well, total body language, common vernacular instead of formal English. And instantly your emotional memory goes, oh, yeah, this sounds like cousin or uncle or that guy you went to school with once. Unfortunately, a lot of the time when we edit, it's very hard to sometimes turn off that formal English. That's, if you, often, especially if you're using Word to edit, it'll constantly turn it on. I have complained to Microsoft every freaking single time I get a chance. I am sick and tired of formal English overriding common vernacular. But this is particularly where imagery particularly well balanced with dialogue sets in, and you will create a memory recall event. Emotional pain, that use that one sparingly. But if you've ever had some form of emotional pain in your life and want to convey emotions, immediately feeling stone cold, cut deep, end a character's life suddenly without expectation. I think, again, Oriented Express, if you've never seen it before and the first time you've ever watched it, I think even the first death you expect, but then you get more and more, and it's like, whoa, impact. And it's like, who's next? And it's really stone cold. Each killing is like, not, it's just, they have no build up whatsoever. They just do it. They just go, yep, this person's a problem now. And next thing you know, their Perco is looking at their dead corpse and going, why? They offered me no information, but they did. It wasn't the information they conveyed, it's who they looked at as they conveyed it. These are the subtle hints. Ooh, the drill sergeant. Absolutely. The drill sergeant. Full Metal Jacket. If you want to ever do a military, if you ever want to write anything military, Full Metal Jacket. Natural Born Killers, even though it's not exactly military, but you want stone cold killers. Natural Born Killers is exactly stone cold. Born on the 4th of July. Apocalypse Now. I'm trying to think. Robert Duvall, pretty much, yeah. But I'm trying to think of the drill sergeant's name at the moment. He died recently too, but absolutely, drill sergeant will just walk up to you, stand over, lean in, and shout at the top of his voice, "Listen here, make it!" And boom, straight away, you feel this freaking tall, and you haven't. Now, if you're good at poetry and similes and metaphors, you could use poetic language to actually paint the emotions, particularly in romance novels, although it's not so much used these days. But comparisons definitely give you emotional memories, particularly if you use common comparisons. But there are emotional encyclopedias out there that will give you cheat sheets on the emotional wheel to move emotions. One of the motion reference books for writers includes the Emotional Thesaurus, the art. What's it called again? The Art of Body Language. Now, this one has a lot of reprints and has been so it's been updated a few times, but it's some of them are actually, some of the links will take you to Psychology Today. But yeah, the Art of Body Language, there's a few different versions of it on Amazon. There's a teacher's guide as well. It's actually a college book, and it will give you points of view, how to describe emotions, try linking actions to emotions. It's a psychological textbook, so it's going to be a lot of words and a lot of things you can't pronounce, but It's also but it has a teaching guide which will really, really help. But there's also links throughout the internet and various blogs over the years that have explained that book in detail, and will really one that I should dive into and perhaps later. Yeah. Now Sergeant Carter in Gomer Pyle, he's a ball of anger, but he's holding back the laugh. He's trying not to laugh. But he's a great character study to model on for a drill sergeant. But and the thing is, he makes a better drill sergeant than most because he is actually Pyle's best friend. He actually cares about his men and the men under his command. He just completely no nonsense by the book. Now, if you want to know what military officers are like, MASH. It is a literally potato mash of different military officers and all their tropes. Hawkeye Pierce, contempt for his fellow man. BJ Honeycutt, the guy who just wants to get along with everybody and get the fuck out of there. Major Burns, to survive this psychological nightmare, he goes by the book. He sees his exit ticket to get out of this mess is to keep getting promoted, and he'll be above the fray. When the colonel, he's too old to be general, so he's counting down the days to retirement and just trying to stitch the unit together into a functional unit. And best sergeant in the whole corps, and best character arc I've ever seen is Klinger, going from corporal to sergeant, although did spend a bit of time as a private. But Klinger going from the transvestite to get out of the army to by the book sergeant to married Klinger, like, he's got a massively great character arc. Now, first, make observations for life before you delve into textbooks, and of course, read material in your genre, and of course, then you get into reference material. Now, the most common place you're going to be showing, of course, emotion is dialogue. Now, if you're a script writer or you're writing a book that you want to turn into a movie, you have to have what's called emotional beats. Now, this is about 5 minutes of reading of each emotion building up. And then you have emotions, the dialogue with those emotions, the action that goes along with that dialogue, and then you have a flat line, like you have the characters parting ways. So everything's broken down into 5-minute beats, and it's like a sawtooth. Now, escalating emotions is sometimes not as easy as it looks. The Departed, building tension. Start with, they're taking a smoke. They or they're walking down the hall and they look at each other, and their facial expressions change. I mean, it's just every 3 to 4 lines there's an emotion, and then you'll have a couple of lines of no emotion, and then you'll build back up various emotions. Now, building emotions doesn't mean you start with a grin, a smile, or laughter. It just means each step of the way you have a line with dialogue, emotion, and action, then another line of dialogue, action, and emotion, then another, and then a couple of lines of dialogue without anything. And these will follow the precipitating action that's been built up to in that scene. So they're going to go to fight. First, you have the dialogue, the emotions, then they fight, and then the next couple of paragraphs have no emotion in them. Why is emotion important? You want people to like your story. You want it to feel natural. You want it to feel, you want to entertain. You want people to enjoy. You want people to laugh, cry. Don't necessarily have to tell a joke every 5 minutes, although, again, when it comes to building emotions, unfortunately, this is the current formula where there's a quip every 5 minutes. This is really sad. It is getting to be unfunny, though I still found a lot of scenes in Guardians funny. I think the mix-up, there's a couple of things that were added that, this is the thing when you follow a formula of 5-minute beats, is that you'll have to add scenes just to add emotion or an emotional breaker, where every 5 scenes is a joke, or every scene ends in a joke in some cases. And it gets worse. You're not a comedy special, but it might as well be. It takes away from the story, particularly when you've got a particularly emotional scene. You're trying to save the lives of children, and that's just. And the thing is, somebody realize they're only there to be saved. You've had save the animals, now save the children, and it's like, you're just draining the emotions at this time. You're dragging out the story. And then you have save the hero. And it's like, why don't you just save everybody? Save the villain while you're at it. It gets to the point where you go from controlling the reader's emotions and giving the emotions you want so that you make them like your story more, to making them not like your story because they feel controlled and compelled to have emotions for things they don't need. And you're just dragging out the story. Unfortunately, we all have different levels at which you feel the story's too long. Some of us can read epics. Some of us can't read more than a comic book. This is sad that once upon a time you used to know in your genre the length of your book down to the finer art. 7, 9, 11, back to 7 in the pattern of lengths of paragraphs. These are, print runs were basically how many inches each took up, and you'd break them up so that you would have break points in the scenes. And you wouldn't exactly sawtooth it precisely, but you would definitely make sure there was 55% dialogue or action, and then you would break up the remaining into emotion, action, and reaction. Of course, the dialogue would be a little bit of inner dialogue, not a lot. And in order to make the characters relatable, you would have to have contradictions. You would have to have even the most logical character, Spock, contradict themselves and totally be fine with it. And even when pointed out by Bones, he would just raise an eyebrow and stare at you. It's amazing. 79 episodes. Although a great series, animated series, Robotech, 85 episodes. Very good. Those two would be, if you're doing long form storytelling, would be something to watch, to break down, and actually see how they convey a lot of emotion through the dialogue and a lot of the emotion through body language, which falls under actions and reactions. Of course, it all starts with real life experiences and material you read, and of course, the books. Um, let's see. Yeah, so hopefully, I'll post. I'm going to post the title here. There's one. There's one. The chat. What's the other one? Uh, yeah, the art of body language. Post that one. Uh, there we go. It's posted. Sorry, posting is taking time. Oh, pardon me. It's the other one. Yeah, body language, blah, 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 blah. I made a lot of notes here and I've just. Here it is. And it's got the. Yes. Here we go. This one too. The emotional thesaurus. Now, the art of body language is a textbook. It has a teacher's guide. Well, there are different versions of it, but there is a version that is a college textbook and has a teacher's guide that will help you understand along the way. And yeah, so hopefully that uh, as we all improve. Unfortunately, a lot of the time we are going to have to spend money on resources. But there's a few dramas, so Hollywood blockbusters, TV shows that can help you along the way. TV tropes, get your tropes together, give you examples of shows in your genre. Read some books in your genre. There's a few video games where the action speaks louder than words. Those can sometimes you can mix it up, with action and words, or frustration through cursing, or bending over and slamming the fist against the wall. Some good old fashioned violence if you're really doing something over dramatic. Hopefully that will. Hopefully I've helped you and helped myself along the way, helped to improve my own writing. like I said, have the Patreon where I will be doing the. But for now, I have the world building video, first one up on my locals. When its exclusive period is up, I'll be posting it on my Patreon as well. I'll be doing the world building video in depth every month, about 8 or 9 of them in total. Be going through each section, probably about 15 minutes to half an hour each video. Take notes. Now, there are phones that don't have Notepad on them. Somebody pointed this out. Microsoft OneNote. I think there is a free version of OneNote. Let me just check. I'm not sure if it, because on my phone it's free. It's not free on every phone, I don't think. Place. Of course, it's depends on your phone too. Apple, they have their own, but there are Notepad applications in different Play stores. So yeah, I didn't know that. I thought every phone would have at least a Notepad. Not every phone has a PDF reader either, or a doc reader, which is a pain in the ass. But again, free resources. Just go to your apps, your top free apps, and you just go hit the free tab. Practically, I mean, there is alternatives to Apple and Google Play, but there's the Amazon App Store, which is pretty much nothing new on that, other than a couple of. Same with Epic. I don't think there's any apps that aren't anywhere else. Now, again, just before I go, emotion writing. Remember, it has to fit the type of story you're telling, the level of detail. Try to keep. Don't have to count every word and make sure that 55% of your words, 55% of your book is dialogue. I mean, look at is it called 65 Million? Hardly any dialogue. It's actually a good movie. It's just not a 7 out of 10. It's more a 6 or 5 out of 10, but still a good movie. And I recommend every now and again watching a mediocre or a flat movie to reset your palate. Otherwise, when your audience expectations start to get high, this is another reason why you use emotional sawtooths, so that you don't keep the emotions running high. Otherwise, you drain the emotions of the reader and they'll turn against you, like MCU. Try to keep it to 3 out of 5 in the build-up and the first 7 to 11. And then, so you have 7 to 11 lines. 3 out of 5 are going to be emotion. And then you have the response sections. And then you have about 5 to 7 lines of no emotions, just the dialogue or the parting actions after the fact, or the action on its own. That way, you're not keeping the emotions running too high, and you're not draining. You're giving the reader time to pause. This is another reason why chapters are broken up as well. And the best way to do it is have a couple of people read it and tell you where they think the insertion point should be, or get used to reading your own material a couple of times over and then picking the breakpoints. Most people breakpoints differ, but usually just paragraph, end of paragraph, three asterisks in the center it, and then start a new paragraph, and then section. Sorry. Some people use a flourish. Some people aren't using them anymore. That's fine. If you're confining yourself to 3,000 to 5,000 words per paragraph, you don't need to break it up. And the emotions, well, you're going to use about 5, 6 emotional responses per paragraph. Per chapter. So you're not going to be overloading the reader either. Try to treat your reader as the neutral observer, and try as little as possible to force the emotion by just putting, sometimes I do it, where you're putting in an emotion like he's happy. You don't need to. Try to unless of course, it's just now and again you will put it in, but just try to pace so only out of 5 lines there's only at most 3 reactions emotions, and then it doesn't matter if you just wrote he's instead of saying he's happy, he smiles. I know it sounds weird, but you're trying to invoke emotions rather than tell the emotions. Of course, there's a lot to learn, and sometimes it is easier to just say what his emotions were, particularly when you're trying to cram a lot of action in. And depends on the genre, you can get away with it, but you're not going to get science fiction with flowery emotions sometimes, although you can get it with horror. And thank you everybody for coming. Any questions before I go? I'm looking over at Rumble. See a couple of viewers still there. 7. Thank you. Hey, Rumble, give us a like, thumbs up. Blind links are in the description below. Thanks, Iselin, for coming. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I appreciate each and every one of you. And if you're looking for my locals link, I'll just briefly pop that one up. If you're on Rumble, you'll see it at the bottom of the video, but pardon me, not on YouTube and Facebook. And of course, my writing Patreon, which is in the description below, but I think it's actually in my link tree. So just quickly again for everybody, is persuasion, the art of influencing people, the art of body language. It's get the teaching guide with that as well. The emotional thesaurus. There's my locals for the and for advanced reading, getting advanced chapters each for my next book, and Patreon for artwork. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Whoops. Wrong button.